Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Trump comes into office, but to everyone's surprise, the FBI makes no progress in identifying the pipe bomber. Then a news reporter named Steve Baker, who worked for The Blaze, wrote an article identifying Shauni Rae Kerkhoff as a potential suspect. She used to work for the Capitol Police and now works for the CIA. There's a lot of video of her, and a computer analysis of her gait matches 94% with the pipe bomber. What is even more shocking is that she is the Capitol Police officer who was one of the first people who fired into the crowd on January 6. She actually instigated the violence. So if the person who planted the pipe bomb is the same person who started shooting into the crowd and who now works for the CIA, that supports the theory that January 6 was a setup. Shortly after Steve Baker's news article was published, the FBI miraculously makes progress on the pipe bomber case. They arrest an autistic black man named Brian Cole Jr. They claim, based on circumstantial evidence, that he is the pipe bomber in the video. To be fair to the FBI, they claim that Brian Cole Jr. gave a complete confession while in custody. However, the FBI has not released the video of the confession. That suggests to me that something is wrong, that it was a forced confession and maybe even involved torture. Brian Cole's arrest immediately raised a lot of suspicion. All the eyewitnesses who have seen Brian Cole say that he walks his dog every day wearing headphones. People say it is clear that he is in altered mental state because of his autism. Why would this guy suddenly decide to walk around DC without his headphones? He's even wearing his headphones in his mugshot. If he needs to wear headphones to feel secure with his autism, why would he suddenly take them off to plant the bomb?
Folks, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, today we're ripping the lid off of one of the biggest scandals still hanging over January 6th. You just heard it, the J6 pipe bomber case. It's still out there, and I'm titling this show Lies, More Lies, and Damn Lies. On the night of January 5th, 2021, those bombs were planted right outside the DNC and RNC headquarters. It's on camera. Surveillance cameras caught the whole thing. The FBI offered a massive reward. For years, interviewed thousands of people, they said. Reviewed thousands and thousands of hours of footage. Came up with nothing. And then after a journalist at The Blaze publishes a report on a potential Capitol Police officer suspect, suddenly they arrest Brian Cole Jr. and claim he confessed and call the case closed. But is it really? We're about to show you explosive information that raises serious questions about that. The so-called confession, the gait analysis on Brian Cole, the bombshell story of a woman named Shauni Rae Kerkhoff, the former Capitol Police officer who now works with the CIA, whose walk was a 94 to 98% forensic match to the bomber, as you heard the last time we had our guest on the show. She reportedly, now we know, failed a polygraph about placing the bombs. And her alibi doesn't hold water. Something about puppies, and I'm going to give our guest a chance to talk about the puppies. And we're also going to cover how our own guest today was fired by The Blaze for daring to report the truth on this. It's not just about two pipe bombs. It can't be. It's about whether the FBI is protecting the real bomber, manufacturing a patsy, and using the whole thing to smear Trump supporters and the MAGA movement. We got to cut through the lies and get straight to the facts. And today, the man who broke this story wide open, investigative journalist Steve Baker, is back with us. Steve, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. Before we get too far, I want to give credit to the video clips for today. I took them off of that summary that Zach DeGregorio shared on YouTube from his show at Wolves and Finance, folks. At Wolves and Finance. Go follow them on YouTube and subscribe to them. Thanks for coming back, Steve. I know you're very busy. I see you everywhere now.
Colonel, thanks for having me back. I have been a little busy over the last few weeks and ramping up to be busier now. We've got a lot going on. We got a lot in the hopper. We're not giving up on this story, even though, and I'm breaking it right here on Rob Maness Live, even though just an hour before you signed on with me here, we finally received the long-awaited lawsuit from Shauni Kerkhoff and her Death Star law firm, Clairlock.
Oh, well, we've got a clip about that later in the show. But big picture wise, let's go from big to small. Zach was just talking about an overview of the complications around Brian Cole, especially. You broke that story about Shauni, and then all of a sudden, within weeks, Brian Cole pops up. We've done a show on that, but what new information is added to the big picture since then that's caused all this stuff we're going to talk about today?
Well, other than the new information today, just breaking an hour ago, and just as we were signing on, I was seeing that Twitter is exploding with it, so that's great. The information in the news is out there. The big news that has happened over the last 3 weeks, obviously, and this is just a real quick synopsis, is that I had reached a point in this story that I could no longer countenance being muzzled. And I was being muzzled by the company that I work for, being muzzled by the company that published the story back on November 8th, The Blaze. Mm-hmm. And so I had over 2.5 years of a great working relationship with The Blaze, with the people there, the leadership, the editors. To be honest with you, I really enjoyed it until they slapped the gag order on me after we published that story. And that was because of the feared coming lawsuit. And they put me in a position where even though we had so much more to tell, so much more evidence, so much more detail about not only the pipe bomb story, about Brian Cole, about Ms. Kerkhoff, but the entire story at large, they began to squeeze, where it was no longer just the fact I couldn't speak about Ms. Kerkhoff, but they began to actually, at the Blaze, they began to internally suppress the reach of mine and my partner Joe Hanneman's stories. So they would turn off the comments. They would not publicize our stories on Facebook or on X, obviously, where much of our readership resides. And so they began to actually suppress our own stories, their own stories, and they continued to pay us. In fact, they continue to pay us under this threat. I'll just give you the quote. I haven't said this publicly, I don't believe, but I was about 3 weeks before I made the decision to go ahead and step out, which then forced them to terminate my contract with them, is that I was told by one of the executives there that the only reason that I'm still receiving a paycheck is because they fear me more on the outside than they do the inside. In other words, they did not want me talking about this. And maybe me going rogue finally sprung the lawsuit that we long anticipated, or at least, were prepared was coming. So at this point, this is kind of the catch up. And then we've started the process of releasing some of these stories that we've held to ourselves for 5.5 months now.
Yeah. And let's just be clear. Glenn Beck sold The Blaze a couple of years ago, and he is I came across a short video segment between him and Stu as I was researching for the show today, and he is apoplectic about this story on Cole. He's not happy with The Blaze, and he didn't have anything to do with you being fired, right?
That's correct. Look, by the time I got to The Blaze, whatever interest financially and ownership that Glenn either had or didn't have back in the summer of 23 was already gone. He was not responsible for either my hiring or my firing. And I would like to be sure that that record is set straight, because Glenn has taken a beating from a lot of quarters online for my termination, and he had absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, he has, as you pointed out correctly, he has some real problems with how the Blaze handled this themselves.
Yeah, folks, if you haven't seen it, go find that clip with him and Stu. It's easy to find. Just type in J6 pipe bomber. It pops right up in one of the videos on X. Glenn is he's very upset about a lot of things about this case, and he's right to be, and he's perplexed too about a lot of things. Steve, let's talk about this law firm that Shauni Kerkhoff has representing her. I'm not going to say she's hired them, and I think you'll tell the audience. Tell them about this law firm, who they are, and what do they do?
Well, the name of the law firm is Claire Locke, and Claire Locke is they're the big bad media company killing defamation law firm out there. They are the ones that won the almost $1 billion lawsuit against Fox that was filed by the voting machine company. Okay. And so that was Claire Locke. They are notorious and well known for being a company that does not work on contingency fees. So in other words, for those that wonder what that means, they're not working for percentage of the wins, their winnings in court. They work on a very, very large retainer, typically in the 7-figure range. And then they also work, Mr. Claire's publicized rate online is $1,800 an hour for a law firm. So they do certainly represent media companies, or they attack media companies representing their clients against defamation. And that's what they are. They are the scariest defamation plaintiff law firm in the country. And so when we found out that they were representing Ms. Kerkhoff, for me, honestly, Colonel, I was like, oh, well, they just played their hand. I mean, they just turned over their cards and told us who. Because look, Ms. Kerkhoff is a government employee. She always, she played a year of women's professional soccer after college. Went into changed her major to criminal justice. Went to work right out after that with the Capitol Police. She's gotten, I don't know. I don't even know that she has 10 years in, but she's not in the high ranking echelons of government salaries. But you know as well as I do that even director level individuals aren't making a killing, and they're certainly not making enough money to afford a firm like Claire Locke. Now, that's not to say that Claire Locke could not waive their normal procedure and waive the typical retainer fee, and is doing this on a contingency. But the reality is that they're working for the government, they're working for the CIA, and the further reality is that the taxpayer are paying for this lawsuit.
Absolutely right. She probably is a GS-12, maybe, or
maybe
11, which folks, that's barely $100,000 a year, maybe $100,000 a year. We're coming up on the break, Steve, but as we go into it, I just want you to tell folks what you and Joe are doing. I saw there's a new website out there, and you're raising funds to raise money to fight this.
Yeah, we have a brand new website that we just launched. I mean, we were kind of ready. We knew that our days were coming to an end at the Blaze because of the censorship regime that they had placed on us. And so we were preparing. And so we were able to get our website up and our Give, Send, Go up very quickly. And it's just veritasregnat.com. The truth reigns. Veritas, REGNAT.com. And so that's where we're at right now. You can find the links to the Give, Send, Go there. And we were, look, all that Joe and I are trying to do is finish this story. I'm sure that we'll find a home somewhere else after this lawsuit is over with, so I'm not worried about that. But the bottom line is we want to finish this story, and we're looking to raise enough money to get that done.
Yeah, outstanding. And you're reporting facts. Look, I've been working with you for a long time, since the Stewart Rhodes Oath Keeper trial, where you were the only real journalist in there doing reporting on it that was actually there. We got to take a break. We'll come back. I want to see some facts. I want to show some video facts about Cole's gait and those kind of things in this next segment. Give you a chance to talk about it that we didn't talk about in the first show we did on this issue.
Sure.
And continue to talk about this insane case of the J6 pipe bomber. We are very far from the total truth on this. I guarantee it. We'll be right back with Steve Baker.
Not make any sense. And that brings us to today. The FBI is aggressively prosecuting Brian Cole Jr. for planting the pipe bombs. But the more that comes out in this trial, the more unbelievable the charges become. The prosecution has been desperately trying to keep documents under seal. Here's the defense motion to unseal one of the documents. Let me show you the reason the government uses to justify why sensitive material needs to be kept under seal. They claim the documents contain identifying information, including true names and photographs, regarding government agents who acted in an undercover capacity with respect to this investigation. This seems highly suspicious to me. These agents were undercover doing what? Scoping out this autistic black man? Or were they undercover in the January 6 operations, and that is what they're trying to cover up? Let us go back to Shauni Rae Kerkhoff, because I want to explain what the gait analysis actually is. Everyone has a unique way that they move. It's almost like a fingerprint. We can take video of Shauni Rae Kerkhoff and Brian Cole Jr. and compare them against the pipe bomber videos. Brian Cole tends to walk with his feet pointed outward, almost in a duck walk. The pipe bomber walks with their feet pointed inward, almost like pigeon-toed. Brian hunches forward, but the pipe bomber stands straight. Brian keeps his arms close to the body. The pipe bomber's arms swing freely. Brian's feet are disproportionately large and are a different size than the feet of the pipe bomber. Brian has a long neck. The pipe bomber does not. Brian holds his cell phone 6 to 8 inches from his face. The pipe bomber holds their cell phone in their lap. It does not look to me like this is the same person. You tell me. Take a look at these videos. Do you think this is the same person? Or did the FBI arrest the wrong person for this crime?
Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and man, this story just keeps getting hotter and hotter. And my guest today is Steve Baker, formerly of the Blaze, but still an independent journalist at Veritas Regnat. Truth reigns. Veritas Regnat. So go check him and Joe out there. That's where they're working from right now. And Steve, the first time I talked to you about Brian Cole on air, we didn't have that video, that type of video available yet. It's so clear now when you look at that side by side that Cole's physical description and movements just don't match the person in that black and white video at the RNC headquarters.
Well, they don't. As a matter of fact, just a week, actually 8 days ago, I got a call from a New York Times reporter that was interviewing me for a story because she got an interview with Miss Shauni Rae Kerkhoff, which, by the way, is an unprecedented event. If you know anything about the CIA's history, never in the history of the CIA have they sanctioned a press media interview with a current existing employee. Never happened in the history of the agency, but they're
Wow.
doing it this time. That should tell you something. Then, in addition to that, as she was interviewing me about that, she asked me, this New York Times reporter, she said, "How convinced are you that Brian Cole is not the bomber?" And I said, "It's 1,000%. It's 100% plus." And she, "Well, how can you be so sure?" And I said, "Because his entire body is an alibi." Now, I didn't coin that phrase. That came from our video expert, the anonymously named Armitage. But Armitage said that very phrase, and I've adopted it and I use it. And that's because nothing about his physicality matches that of the gray hooded pipe bomber that placed the devices at the RNC and DNC that we've seen, that America has seen from only the few seconds of video that the FBI has released over 5 years. Now we have much more video of that. We've spent the time harvesting the video from Capitol CCTV. So we have we have 20 times plus more than the FBI has ever released. And so we've been able to obsess over that character walking around planting those devices, moving through the streets of DC on the evening of January 5th, 2021. And then we have video and photographic evidence of Brian Cole Jr., and it's just not the same person. It can't be. And when you talk about gait recognition, identifying somebody who probably is the gray hooded pipe bomber, we can compare the same thing to Brian Cole and absolutely rule him out. He doesn't have the feet. His shoe size. Look, he is a minimum of a 12, maybe a 12 and a half shoe size. The bomber is a 9 to a 9.5 shoe size. How do I know that? It's because I've gotten on my hands and knees with a tape measure and measured the bricks, the concrete blocks where the bomber actually stepped, the very bricks in the alleyway behind the RNC, the very concrete squares in front of the DNC, and we were able to measure clear shots of the bomber's feet in the very type shoe that we know that the bomber was wearing, a Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoe, 2018 model. I mean, we know exactly that shoe because the FBI told us what it was. And so taking the exact measurements and dimension of that shoe, we've been able to determine what the bomber's shoe size is. And there's no way that Brian Cole Jr. shoved his 12 and a half size foot into a 9.5 shoe and walked around for a couple of miles on the evening of January 5th. His neck is longer. He has a severe prescription. He when we have photography and video of him on the phone, he holds his phone right here, Colonel. He holds it 6 to 8 inches from his face, whereas the bomber, when the bomber sits down at the bench at the DNC, the bomber holds the phone down in her lap, 2 feet from her eyes at night. Wearing sunglasses, so they don't have the same eyeballs. They don't have the same feet. The Brian Cole walks with his feet out like this, almost in a kind of a duck walk, whereas the bomber has a pigeon-toed right foot and crosses over the left foot with the right foot in what's called a circumduction move like that. That's what the bomber does. They are not the same person.
Yeah. When I think of the FBI, we're probably close to the same age. So I think of the guys with the great National Crime Lab from the 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, that's what they've been famous for, was their crime lab. I mean, this seems like something really simple that they would go to do a routine effort to make sure the shoe size fits.
I do. I think of, from the 60s, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. and the show FBI. And then I wasn't old enough to watch it in its original run, but I watched, Elliot Ness, and,
Yeah,
the Untouchables,
yeah,
the old black and white. And, we developed a reverence for the FBI. And there was an era where certainly, particularly, not only were they the greatest law enforcement investigative uh, law enforcement agency in the world, but they were also rabidly anti-communist and protecting our nation from the Soviet Union, the threats behind all of the Iron Curtains at the time, and so we had great respect for them at that time, but that has been diminished in the last couple of decades greatly, and it's been replaced by a DEI culture. It's been replaced by a woke culture. And so it's not the same agency any longer. And that's not to say it hasn't always had problems, but it has real problems right now.
yeah. I mean, the one thing that I remember it for is their investigative power, their powerful investigative tools through the
Right.
lab and the things. That's what usually gave them the win in the TV series and all the things I
Yeah.
read about them. And I don't want to make this whole show about bashing the FBI, but it just puzzles me that if they've done that same process, they would have come with the same answer as you. It's not like you're making it up. You went there
No.
and you have the video that shows the where the feet are planted. So you can measure the blocks. So I mean,
Right.
it's just something that's really, really odd. Even get past the gate stuff, which is pretty convincing, really. The lab piece of it is interesting. The whole cell phone pinging off cell phone towers in a data set that is supposed to have been corrupted. We've been told that for 5 years. That's one of the things Glenn I saw was so upset about is, oh, you got to be kidding me, people. You've been telling me this is corrupt. This data is corrupted. How did you get cell phone tower pings off of Brian Cole's cell phone?
Well, the reason why they got cell phone pings, assuming that they're telling the truth, and let's just give them a little bit of grace here. They got
Yeah.
5 to 7 cell phone pings, is because we have seen from our own video analysis Brian Cole's car in the area. The problem is his car is seen not where and when the gray hooded bomber was placing the devices. In fact, we see his car over a mile away, and we see his car at the exact time, right in between the time the hooded bomber places the bomb first at the DNC and is going to either meet up at her car or meet an accomplice over in the Folger Park area, which is off camera, by the way. Somehow, Brian Cole is supposed to know where the blind spots are in Capitol Police CCTV street cameras. I don't think that that anybody shared that information with him. It's certainly not available on Google Maps or anywhere else publicly at the time. And so there's no way he could have known that, but the bomber did. And at the same time that the bomber is reloading the backpack with the second device to take it to the RNC, we see Brian Cole's car getting on the interstate on 395 and exiting and leaving back toward Virginia.
Again, that's simple timeline sequencing with geographic location and movement. It's just very puzzling. And I'm not saying people are lying in the FBI. I'm just saying, why aren't these simple things? You guys they gotta take care of the simple pieces of evidence before they can get somebody into a court to try to convict them, don't they?
Well, first of all, we have released, Joe and I, even before we left the Blaze, we were still writing stories about Brian Cole, and we were providing the we'll call it the counter evidence to what the FBI was releasing. And the FBI, neither the FBI, DOJ, have even bothered to respond. Now they'll of course say, well, we can't because we're in the middle of a ongoing investigation. But they have put out their side of the story. They have talked about the cell phone tower pings. They've talked about the credit card purchases of components that can be used to make a pipe bomb over the course of many years. That these components were, and they've released new information about. How he was looking up stuff about writing mandates and things of that nature back in 2012 when he was 17 years old, that sort of thing. And they have a computer hard drive with his name on it. It's a family hard drive, and there's a section that's labeled Brian. And so they found more allegedly nefarious internet searches that on his behalf. Again, allegedly, he has a father named Brian as well. So we don't know exactly who made those purchases. We don't know exactly who made those internet searches. His father is a bail bondsman. He works with notorious and nefarious types of people every day of his life as a longtime bail bondsman. It's very likely that the father could have been looking up those kinds of things, looking for the types of clients that he has to go round up and catch on occasion after they jump bail. So I mean, there's all kinds of other reasons why these searches might have been made in this particular with this particular kid. But the bottom line is the body doesn't fit.
Yeah,
he's not the bomber. He can't be the bomber.
Johnny Cochran, if the glove does not fit, you cannot convict. All right, we got to take another break. When we come back, we'll focus on Kerkhoff and her gait. And I think the clip actually has you and Kyle Seraphin in it for this from Wolves and Finances on YouTube, folks. Go check them out. That's where these clips are coming from. We'll be right back with Steve Baker.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Now let's look at Shauni Rae Kerkhoff. Here is Steve Baker explaining on the Kyle Seraphin podcast.
All right, this is in the Capitol Rotunda, obviously. Highlighted right in the middle is Shauni Kerkhoff. She's carrying one of her less lethal launchers on her side. And as you see her move, you can see something that is generally referred to as circumduction of her leg, right leg. This is what is very unique about her gait. Watch how it's stiff. Just watch the right leg there. It's the person holding the weapon. It's a paintball gun. I mean, a pepper ball gun. And it goes out and around over.
It's like her ankle. It's like her ankle buckles.
Yeah. Well, she had a severe college soccer career ending injury in 2015. This is a very common post-injury, post-recovery move by people that have had this particular tibia break.
You have now seen both people. Who do you think looks more like the pipe bomber?
And this one's really good.
This one's very revealing, especially when we're going to be showing versions of all of these zoomed in on, but you can really see it, and it becomes more pronounced the more fatigued she is. They go, oh, she can't be fatigued. She's a marathon runner. Well, she is. She's a marathon.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show, and we're talking about that J6 pipe bomber case. The case against Brian Cole appears to me to have more holes than a flour sifter. I'm telling you, a lot of this doesn't make sense. And what you were watching there was Steve Baker and Kyle Seraphin looking at Shauni Kerkhoff, the former Capitol Hill police officer, now a CIA person. And the walk sure looks the same when you look at it, Steve. And you had people do a test. I couldn't find the video. I think you used the video clip, but I couldn't find the dang thing about making a right. Make a right turn with your right leg crossing over the way you observe her do that in the video. Well, I tried it. That is impossible to do for a normal set of legs. Right, I'm a right-handed person without stumbling almost.
About the only type of person who can make a right turn of any degree. It doesn't have to be a 90 degree or even a 45 degree, but just making a normal right turn with crossing the right leg over the left in a right turn, the normal person is going to fall down or trip themselves. They better have something to hold on to if they're even just testing it out. And I've encouraged everyone that's watching right now and hearing the sound of my voice is try making a right turn while crossing your right leg in the apex of that turn over the left. Now you can cross the left over the right in a right turn, and that's normal. It's highly unusual and abnormal to cross the right over the left, unless that is A, your normal walking pattern, or B, you used to play soccer for a living.
Yeah. And broke that leg.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it is hard to do. I just tried like a 20-degree turn just to test it out, and I almost stumbled and fell.
Yeah, everyone who has tried it fails. Everyone who has tried this, I've had podcast show hosts. I've had many people that have written me back when we posted that video, and it's a short side-by-side comparison of the bomber in the alleyway behind the RNC, making the bomber is walking very big. It's the fastest moment of the entire stroll that night of the bomber's stroll, making a very swift walking right-hand turn around a corner of a building in the alleyway just before the bomb was placed, seconds literally before the bomb was placed. And then side by side at the Capitol, Ms. Kerkhoff making a similar angle right-hand turn, actually running in an actual jog as she's running towards the tunnel there on the upper west terrace of the Capitol, and yet she has the ability to cross that right leg over the left in a right-hand turn while running. Now, if you or I tried to do that right now, we would be flat on our face.
Oh, absolutely right. So everything that I've seen you report on regarding her has a whole host of facts behind it. Am I missing? Are you doing like opinion threaded in there somewhere? Or are you just talking about the facts and pointing stuff out? I mean,
Look,
how can you be sued for that?
I've got a lot of opinions that we're going to have to, in order to break some of the we'll call them some of the dams that are built up right now. We're going to have to reveal some things that we believe that we know, that we think that we know, that we don't yet have the absolute evidence to. But that has nothing to do with Shauni Kerkhoff. It has to do with the Kerkhoff story, because ultimately, at the end of the day, whoever the bomber was. And when I was asked, by the way, by the New York Times, how convinced I was that Ms. Kerkhoff was the gray hooded pipe bomber, I said, I'm 94 to 98% convinced. And she's like, well, and I said, yeah, 94 to 98%, because electronically, by the software, by the gait recognition software that was run for us on our behalf, comparing Ms. Kerkhoff to the gray hooded bomber, it came in at a 94% match. Now, there's no malice in that whatsoever. I'm reporting what the computer said, what the software said. And then, but the human intel. Now, you come from an interesting background in the military, and you are fully aware that the Department of War has actual people called targeting analysts, and their expertise is to look at a camera from a drone 20,000 feet above the target and recognize the gait of the target and the individual. It's ultimately much more accurate than facial recognition, because you can't see their face from 20,000 feet up. You can't see it from 1,000 feet away either, on the ground, on a level surface. You can't get a fingerprint from that far, but you can recognize the absolutely perfect match to a target's gait. And we had two different such individuals look at the evidence that we put into the computer, and their response to us was, the first one was that was by way of his experience and his expertise, that it was a 98% match. It was a better match than the software. We had another senior retired lieutenant colonel from the Army who was a senior targeting analyst who looked at our evidence and said, and I quote, "I have called in airstrikes on people for less evidence than you have. You have it right."
Yeah. Well, and when you combine that with the devices themselves, I was an EOD troop when I was a young enlisted guy. Matter of fact, my last job in EOD, I was the training NC. I was in charge of the training section, and I specialized in IED training, and pipe bombs was one of my specialties. That's why you've heard me say before, man, that certainly looks like a training device that I've used before to train people like FBI agents. We used to do FBI agent training for the local detachment.
Let's talk about that just for a moment, Rob.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that,
Talk about
because the FBI continues, the DOJ continues in the Brian Cole case to assert that those were in fact viable destructive devices that could have hurt, maimed, or even killed human beings. I haven't spoken to a single person from your background, your expertise. I haven't spoken to a person from law enforcement. I haven't spoken to a person from any federal agency, FBI, ATF, United States Secret Service, CIA. I haven't spoken to a single person in the Department of Defense or Department of War now who has told me that that device looked like anything other than a training device.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Just to talk about the mechanics of it, it looks very, very similar to standard training devices that we made in our shops. Sometimes you could order them from a company that makes those kinds of things. But beyond that, the reality of these devices being viable, I don't know. I don't think so, because it doesn't look like it's got the right type of chemical. It doesn't have the right kind of firing devices. The timers were not good enough or long lasting enough to make them last into January 6th. So if the intent, and I think if I remember correctly, it's believed the stated intent was to disrupt the January 6th events somehow.
Correct.
For
Correct.
some reason. The timers definitely would not have lasted that long based on when these were placed, because we have the videos showing when they were placed, so we know the times. And everything else about them screams training device. And I just do not believe the analysis that says they're viable explosive devices.
There are two reasons why we know they were not viable devices. The first reason is that on January 12th and January 13th, just 1 week after January 6th, 7 days afterwards, there was an FBI counter surveillance team, the top team from the Washington field office. It was called a SOG, or a Special Operations Group, was put on a Falls Church residence to look at what they considered to be, at the time, the residence of person of interest number 2 and person of interest number 3. Actually, it was the resident of POI 3, and he had a visiting person on the 5th and 6th at his home who became identified as POI 2. Now, the counter surveillance team, before they went out and were put on that particular address, specifically asked about the threat level, because they had to know what they were up against. If they were up against a highly skilled, dangerous hombre, armed and dangerous, could be storing bombs at their house and had dangerous devices, and their supervisory special agent told them that they were not viable devices, which changes their posture on the surveillance, because you're going to take up a different perimeter, you're going to take a different stance, you're going to be more careful about maybe possibly interacting, maybe more careful about how close you get, how you might tip them off, whether you go do what's called a knock and talk on the door or not. All of these things needed to be known before they sent the counter surveillance team out. They were told by their FBI supervisor that no, they were not viable devices. Then the The punchline, though, was when the two Capitol Police counter surveillance officers, plainclothes counter surveillance officers, found the bomb at the DNC and then walked over to the two SUVs where United States Secret Service agents were sitting in those SUVs guarding the vice president-elect who was in the building behind them, Kamala Harris at the time. When those two plainclothes counter surveillance officers notified them that there was a bomb 10 feet from them, they finished their sandwiches. They were having lunch. They didn't get out of the vehicles for 2.5 minutes. Then when they got out of the vehicles, Colonel, they did not cordon off the area. They violated every single standard operating procedure and every aspect of their training related to the discovery of a suspicious device, because that counter surveillance officer, and now I'm theorizing, told them, hey, no problem. It's a training device. We're in the middle of a training exercise with the Capitol Police. There's no worries. Yeah. Finish your sandwich. When you're done, we'll get out of here. We'll go through the whole dog and pony show. The bomb squad will show up here. The bomb robot will do their damn. Just finish your lunch. And so they did. Rather than jumping out of the vehicle, hair, teeth, and eyeballs, because they're 10 feet from a bomb, and then cordoning off the area and stopping foot traffic, stopping automobile traffic. There was a train a train trestle 40 feet away that they should have stopped the train, because that would have been in the area, the recommended area by their training. They would have halted the train. They never did even called it in to the train service.
The behavior makes it sound like your theory is closer to what actually happened tonight. We got to take our last break. When we come back, I want you to tell the audience, when we come back, who else was involved at the DNC headquarters during this time frame, and what makes it even more strange. And then we'll talk about Shauni's alibi, something to do with puppies. I don't know what's going on. We'll be right back with Steve Baker.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
So what is happening to Shauni Rae Kerkhoff? As a reminder, the FBI stopped considering her a suspect when she produced an alibi.
So Jennifer, what was her alibi?
Her alibi, that's a great question. Her alibi was that on the night that the bombs were placed, she had time-stamped video of herself playing with her puppies, her young dogs, and she shared this video with the FBI, and that was part of what convinced the FBI that she had nothing to do with this crime.
She had proof because she was playing with her puppies.
Well, we are finding out now that is a lie. According to new court documents, the defense is trying to subpoena the alibi video. It references the alibi footage as the video of Ms. Kerkhoff's dog taken at her home with her voice allegedly in the background. We still have not seen this video, but this is the description of what the defense understands the video is. It is not of puppies. It is of her one dog, and Shauni Rae Kerkhoff is not even in the video. Audio of what might be her voice is coming from off screen. This is what she is using as her alibi. Now you tell me, could something like that be faked? That certainly does not seem enough to me to be used as an alibi. But it gets worse. In the document, we find out on November 6, 2025, Ms. Kerkhoff was interviewed by the FBI and took a polygraph examination. She was asked 2 relevant questions. 1, did you place those pipe bombs? And 2, did you place those pipe bombs that evening? Ms. Kerkhoff failed the polygraph. Excuse me? This lady failed the lie detector test when she was asked if she placed the pipe bombs. I don't know what you think, but this person is seeming pretty suspicious. It goes on. The FBI polygraph examiner noted Kerkhoff's very controlled reaction to the news of her failing the polygraph and seemingly rehearsed responses to the examiner's questions. It just seems strange that the FBI would have all this evidence against Shauni Rae Kerkhoff and then quickly drop the investigation and go and arrest Brian.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on World YouTube and our X Spaces simulcast. My guest today is independent journalist Steve Baker, who broke this story, and magically the suspect, Brian Cole, appeared. Steve, I think that you may be related to a genie or something, because you rubbed the bottle or the lamp, and all of a sudden Brian Cole came out in the smoke from the FBI's long known, already had the evidence, been sitting there collecting dust story, etc. I mean, none of this makes sense, especially those 2 pieces of information. They absolutely don't make sense. It's 2 specific questions. She failed, her reaction to the failure, and the dog video. I mean, how easy is it to fake metadata or overlay an audio on a video?
Okay, well, first of all, a 12-year-old with any computer skills at all can fake the metadata on a particular video. But this video story, it's in its 3rd iteration, and even though I got the lawsuit from Ms. Kerkhoff's attorneys just an hour before coming on with you today, I haven't had a chance to read a single page of it yet. So I think it's 127 pages. I haven't read a single page of that yet. So I'm anxious to see if there's going to be a 4th iteration of the dog story at this point. But it began with a CBS News story claiming that CBS had spoken to 3 sources. They had 3 sources, ostensibly from the FBI, who could verify that Miss Kerkhoff was at home on the evening of January 5th at the time the bombs were being placed, quote unquote, playing with her puppies. And that was the video that they saw. But then what happened is right after that came out, what the law firm did not know, what the FBI did not know, what the CIA did not know, what Shauni Kerkhoff did not know, is that we had already done a deep dark web search, even though she had wiped her internet history clean and her social media history. We found photos of the adult greyhound that they had adopted, her and her partner, exactly 1 month before the pipe bombs were planted, December 5th of 2020. And this adult dog is not puppies, as the narrator put forward there a while ago. So suddenly, when we got at the Blaze our demand preservation letter from Claire Locke, the law firm, what they did is they listed in that she was at home, or as I stated, that she was at home caring for her dog. So we went from, quote unquote, playing with her puppies to after we proved there weren't puppies, there was an adult dog, and leaked that into the media, because remember, I was under a gag order, so we used proxies to leak that photograph out there. And then once it was out there in social media, they changed it from playing with her puppies to caring for her dog. Now we're in the 3rd iteration of that story, in which they're revealing to us, and I did see a screenshot on X a few minutes ago of the dog laying on a sofa. And now they're saying that you can hear Miss Kerkhoff's name in the audio in the background. So she's not playing with her puppies. She's not caring for her dog. The dog is now laying on a sofa with her voice in the background. The law firm cannot even get the story correct. But we're supposed to believe this.
Yeah, and that tells you something, folks. When you get different version of the same story, from the same people, the same quarters, in a short period of time. They're reacting because something wasn't right the first time they put it out, or the second time they put it out. And
Right.
people's lives, Brian Cole's life is at stake here, literally. I mean, not death penalty wise, but long-term prison time and those kind of things. He's an autistic man, number one, and his life is at stake, literally. And people are playing. It looks like people are playing games with the evidence in this case, trying to protect the actual person that put the pipe bombs down. And that makes no sense because they're going to great lengths, even to the point of potentially harming an innocent guy, in order to do this. What do you think is so important that they would go to this lengths if that's what's actually happening?
To borrow a phrase from Mike Benz, the blob must protect the blob. This is the bottom line, is that the intelligence community went into hyperdrive. They actually went into panic mode when I took this evidence to a special team at ODNI to look at it. I didn't trust the FBI. I still don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the previous FBI. I don't trust the current FBI. And I was not going to take this evidence because I believe that FBI for the last 5 years has been involved in the cover-up of the pipe bomb situation, of that case. Yeah. And so many things point to their cover-up, which we can get into in another time, another show. But the bottom line is that I took it to the watchers of the watchers. ODNI, that's their job, is to oversee the 18 federal intelligence agencies in this country. And so I took it to the watchers of the watchers, and I showed them my evidence. And this set off alarm bells throughout the intelligence community when a draft memo was leaked by a nefarious person at ODNI. It was not even completed yet. It still had the yellow markers through it it was being circulated for final approval. Before it ever was signed off on and reached final approval, it was leaked to the CIA and then to the FBI. And then from one of the agencies or both, they leaked it to several mainstream media sources to attack ODNI and to attack Tulsi and to attack Joe Kent. And of course, obviously, to diminish the authenticity of the work that Joe and I had been doing in our team on this story. And so this was leaked prematurely, set off alarm bells. They went into panic mode, and now that's what they're doing. They must protect themselves, because this is a multi-agency conspiracy. And Rob, we may have stumbled on, for the first time in American history, absolute proof of multi-agency conspiracy to take out a president and to prevent a president from ever being able to be involved in politics again. And that would have been what happened on January 6th.
Yeah, Stephen, what you just said, I mean, I can't deny it. I've been in government for most of my adult life, since I was 17 years old, so I grew up trusting these agencies and their processes and those kind of things. But it's undeniable that it certainly looks very, very much so like a multi-agency conspiracy to take down, first to stop a president from being elected. I have to take people back to the August of 2015 when they first went into his first intel brief as spies, and all of what happened in the first administration outside of this, and then this, because it makes no sense to me. Why not just fess up? Hey guys, this was a training exercise. I mean, if there was nothing to it, this should have been some supervisor going, no, we're just going to fess up to this because it's causing too much stir, it's harming citizens and those kind of things. It was a training exercise. That's why you see the seemingly disconnected responses and those kind of things. But they didn't do that, and they had that chance every single day. I
believe that Ms. Kerkhoff is a victim. And I'm not saying that because I have a lawsuit now and I'm trying to prevent malice from being argued. We presented the idea that this was a training exercise gone bad, or that it was part of the conspiracy was to make the participants feel like that they were participating in a training exercise. And then the next day, by the way, you could never talk about this again for the rest of your life.
Yep, absolutely, man. Well, thank you very much for your time, my friend. Veritas Ragnat is the website. Steve Baker, Joe Hanneman, they're there. They're going to keep pulling on this story. I look forward to getting you back for an update when the next explosion happens. Good luck, my friend.
Thanks, Colonel.
All right. Tomorrow's Whistleblower Wednesday. I've got Chris Metzai. He and his wife and his family have been had to go through the weaponized legal system. Yes, it's still happening, folks. I'll see you then.